Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, on Roku, Dwyer Boxing News. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Let's play a game I call more or less, right? And let's pick an elite fighter in his mid-30s who really has earned the benefit of the doubt, right? We have to do a self-check every now and then because at different times in history there have been moments where the boxing public believes that a Muhammad Ali can beat in his prime Larry Holmes, right? We saw what happened when that fight took place. So let's take inventory. Just indulge me for a moment. Let's play more or less. Let me ask a few questions. After each question, I just want you to take a second and to yourself, privately, answer the question, right? We'll just take, as our elite boxer in his mid-30s, we'll just take Floyd Mayweather, arguably the best in the sport, pound for pound. Now, what if Floyd Mayweather were a member of Congress, spending at least some of his time in the political job? Would that make you more or less likely to believe that he would win his next fight? Now, what if Mayweather was coming off of a loss in which he didn't just lose, but was knocked the hell out? A loss in which he was face first on the canvas, unconscious for more than 10 seconds after being knocked down for the second time in the fight. Would that make you more or less likely to believe that he would win his next fight? Let's continue. What if in the fight before his knockout loss, right? In the fight before his last loss, Mayweather lost a split decision in a fight in which the judges thought he faded late in the fight, losing most of what we call the championship rounds. And let's just say that it was in a fight in which his opponent had an ankle injury and could not move that well. Would that make you believe that it was more or less likely that Mayweather would win his next fight? Now, what if in the fight before that fight, right? We're going back now 3 fights ago. Mayweather also went the distance and won a majority decision, not unanimous, but majority. And when that decision was announced, it was booed by the crowd, right? After a fight that went the distance in which Mayweather repeatedly got countered all night long, after which his own trainer complained that he wasn't following the game plan, right? And what if the scoring in that fight was so controversial that Mayweather agreed to fight the same opponent again, and it was that same opponent who in the rematch knocked him out cold after knocking him down earlier in the fight? Would that make you more or less likely to believe that Mayweather would win his next fight? Now, let me just say this, and I don't say it lightly. If it were Floyd Mayweather or anyone else in boxing, bells and whistles would be going off. about whether this fighter is still an elite fighter. You know, Sergio Martinez won his last 2 fights and is facing more scrutiny than this fighter, Manny Pacquiao. Right now, to the gamblers, right? A lot of my crowd are people who bet on fights, right? I run gamblersadvisory.com. They're my ultimate audience. To the gamblers, let me say this in the strongest of terms. While you need to watch this fight to get the lay of the land in boxing, do not bet on the Manny Pacquiao Brandon Rios fight. Right? I believe prime Manny Pacquiao, and by prime I'm talking about the Manny Pacquiao who pretty much effectively ended Antonio Margarito's career. Right? That eye injury was major. He almost didn't get licensed for the Miguel Cotto fight, and then of course in the Cotto fight Margarito was stopped because of eye swelling. Right? That Manny Pacquiao who fought Antonio Margarito would wipe the floor, in my opinion, with Brandon Rios. Right? Brandon Rios, in my opinion, and this is an opinion video, we're hard here on YouTube, Brandon Rios is not an all-time great. The closest Brandon Rios will get to an all-time great is when he stands next to Manny Pacquiao at the press conference. But the question in this fight is whether Manny Pacquiao is still Manny Pacquiao. That's an open question. It's too risky for this gambler, right? Let's talk about why. Manny Pacquiao's style depends heavily, and I mean heavily, on his legs. Much more so than Floyd Mayweather's style, Bernard Hopkins' style, or either Klitschko's style. I've just named 4 fighters in their mid-30s and up who are still successful, right? Who still rule the roost, so to speak, right? None of them move around as much as Manny Pacquiao does. None of them need to move around as much to be successful as Manny Pacquiao does. I understand Mayweather moved a lot against Robert Guerrero, but understand Mayweather against Miguel Cotto, hanging out by the ropes. Mayweather against Victor Ortiz, hanging out by the ropes. Mayweather against Ricky Hatton, hanging out by the ropes. I think we realize that Mayweather up against the ropes is still an elite boxer. He doesn't have to jump around, move all over the ring to be successful. Manny Pacquiao does. Now, as they say in boxing, this is a long-time truism that, quite frankly, predates me by generations. The legs are the first to go. Right? They say power is the last to go. Think George Foreman after he returned. Right? Guys still have punches in their 40s. But guys aren't able to jump around like they were in their 20s. Right? So the legs are the first to go. Manny Pacquiao's style is very dependent on his legs. Also, another thing to note is that Manny Pacquiao's power is waning. Right? The last time Manny Pacquiao got a knockout was in 2009. Right? And that was against Miguel Cotto. And that was in the 12th round. Right? Since then, 5 men have gone the distance with Manny Pacquiao in his last 6 fights. Right? 5. Joshua Clottey, Antonio Margarito, Shane Mosley, Juan Manuel Marquez, and Timothy Bradley. In the 6th fight, it was Manny Pacquiao who got knocked out. Right? Let me also make another point. Manny Pacquiao has been getting caught. Right? He was knocked down twice. in his last fight. He had never been knocked down in the prior 3 fights against Juan Manuel Marquez. Some dynamic has changed. Let's go further. As older fighters do, Manny Pacquiao is now backloading his punches into the final minute of rounds. All you have to do is Google the CompuBox numbers for the Timothy Bradley fight. There is an excellent article that was written some time ago on BoxingScene.com that literally pointed out that Manny Pacquiao only threw 17% of his punches against Timothy Bradley in the first minute of the rounds. Right now, Manny Pacquiao used to be the Energizer Bunny, throwing punches in bunches all through a fight. Well, the Energizer Bunny is now pacing himself. He's getting older. Father Time eventually starts to catch up with all of us, right? Let's go further. As with Mike Tyson, dominant fighter in his very early 20s, Manny Pacquiao's style is a young man's style. He hasn't been and isn't an in-the-pocket fighter. He moves around the ring. He spends energy. That style doesn't age as well, in my opinion, as a guy who doesn't have to move around the ring as much to win rounds. And let me make one more point, and I think this point really needs to be emphasized in the mainstream media. There also seems to be a lack of confidence in the Manny Pacquiao camp. If Pacquiao were confident, why not fight WBO interim champ Mike Alvarado? Why not go after the champ? Right? Manny Pacquiao has the same promoter as the champ. Right? It's only when you beat the champ that you get the title. Instead, they're going after the guy the champ beat in his last fight. Now let's talk about Brandon Rios. Why I can't support Brandon Rios against Manny Pacquiao. Why I'm not on the field but on the sidelines here. Brandon Rios is a stay-in-the-pocket fighter. As I said before, if he's fighting prime Pacquiao, I don't believe Manny Pacquiao would be in the pocket long enough for Brandon Rios to find him. How do you beat a fighter who's excellent in the pocket? Don't be in the pocket. But when a guy starts to move on Brandon Rios, when a guy's able to throw a jab, keep Rios a little bit out of the pocket, a little bit away from him, Brandon Rios falls apart. Let's face it, I don't care what it says in the official records, right? As you're doing research for this fight and you get to the line on Brandon Rios' record that reads victory over Richard Abril, you need to roll your eyes. Brandon Rios didn't win that fight. Brandon Rios got taken apart. He got embarrassed. He got deconstructed in that fight, right? Richard Abril has a very long jab. That jab was landing all night. When Brandon Rios got by the jab, Richard Abril was able to just clinch Brandon Rios, right? What it showed was that Brandon Rios had very limited lateral movement. If you were a little bit out of the pocket, Brandon Rios couldn't do anything with you. Brandon Rios is a guy who hunts you down, throws hard punches from up close, slowly chops you down. He's beating you with offense, not defense. Against Mike Alvarado, who has more defense than Brandon Rios, according to Manny Pacquiao's own trainer, Freddie Roach. Think about that, right? Mike Alvarado repeatedly hit Brandon Rios with right hands all fight. Now, you've heard me talk about fighters who are adaptive reactive. Neither Manny Pacquiao, in my opinion, nor Brandon Rios is adaptive reactive. Rios is getting hit with that right hand in the 4th round, the 6th round, the 8th round, the 10th round, the 12th round. There's no adjustment. Likewise, Manny Pacquiao, I keep hearing about the new Pacquiao who's supposed to have the vastly improved right hand. Manny's now 34 years old. I haven't seen it. Also, in the Joshua Clottey fight, Joshua Clottey, passive defense, has his hands up. Manny Pacquiao never alters what he's doing. Even when Clottey starts landing uppercuts, Manny Pacquiao did nothing in that fight to stop the uppercuts from landing. Right? So my point is simply this. Were this prime Pacquiao, I would take him in 2 seconds. I don't know if this is prime Pacquiao. To the gamblers, I have a general rule. When a guy gets knocked out in his prior fight, I'm on the sidelines. Because quite frankly, it's difficult to come back from knockouts. When the guy, of course, was beaten the fight before that and hasn't gotten a knockout since 2009. That concerns me. Also, when the guy really is more of an athlete than a technician. In other words, it's more hand speed and jumping around the ring than it is, blocking shots up close and playing chess. Then I really wonder what happens as that guy ages. If you're getting by on talent more than technique, as you get older, that fastball is going to lose a few miles per hour. Right? It's only when you know how to pitch that you're able to continue on and be a Hopkins, a Mayweather, a Klitschko, right? A Tarver. So I need to find out if Manny Pacquiao is still the Manny Pacquiao of a few years ago. Or if this Manny Pacquiao is where Muhammad Ali was when Muhammad Ali fought Larry Holmes. It's a bit shocking now, looking back, to actually think that a lot of people thought Ali had a chance in that fight. What we found out was that a once great fighter was no longer himself. Well, let me just say, even Ali wasn't coming off of the kind of devastating knockout loss that Manny Pacquiao is coming off of right now. So my advice to the gamblers is to stay on the sidelines. I privately expect Manny Pacquiao to win this fight if he's within the area code of who he was. But be careful. Boxing's a young man's game, and he might not be. Let's not confuse the technicians who are still ruling the roost late in life, like Bernard Hopkins, with Manny Pacquiao, who's always been more of a speed and athletic type guy, right? Bernard Hopkins is the kind of guy who, is in front of you, is catching shots on forearms and stuff like that. Bernard Hopkins is not jumping around as much as Manny Pacquiao is, trying to get the right angle to throw a straight left, right? So I'm on the sidelines for this fight. I'd like to get your thoughts on this fight. I think Pacquiao wins. I'm not betting on it. I don't recommend that anyone bets on it. If I see Brandon Rios, who quite frankly should have a hard time even catching up to Pacquiao, able to land 2 or 3 punches from up close on Manny Pacquiao at any given moment, then I'll know that the dynamic with Pacquiao has changed dramatically and that Rios has a chance. I don't believe Rios has any chance to win even this fight by decision. I believe Rios' only chance is a puncher's chance, but I don't believe it's strong enough to bet on it. Let me hear from you. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com, and I hope you leave your comments here on YouTube in the comment section. Thanks for watching.